It's 5:05 and welcome into a Monday edition of the Carolina Journal News Hour. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. I'm Nick Craig. Good morning to you. Well, late Friday evening, North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis was the key vote leading to the confirmation of Pete Hegseth as the new U.S. Secretary of Defense. Tillis voted in favor, tying the vote, giving the newly inaugurated Vice President in J.D. Vance his opportunity to cast the tie-breaking 11th hour vote in the confirmation of Hegseth. 3 Republican senators, Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, all voted no on Hegseth, making it 49-50, setting up Tillis to vote on the tie or potentially tank Hegseth's confirmation. Tillis had reported earlier in the day that he had met with Hegseth for 2 hours earlier to that and ultimately decided to back him. On X, Hegseth shared a detailed letter that he sent to Senator Tillis denying allegations levied by his ex-sister-in-law. The former wife of his brother alleged that Hegseth abused both alcohol and his ex-wife, even though his ex-wife had denied those claims as well. Hegseth told senators that he wanted to restore a, quote, warrior culture and meritocracy to the armed forces. He has also been very critical of the controversial diversity, equity, and inclusion policies in the military and said during his confirmation hearing, which happened back just a couple of weeks ago, that any service member in combat should have to meet the same readiness standards regardless of gender. Tillis said in a post on X following the vote, quote, Pete has a unique perspective as a veteran of wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and is unquestionably passionate about modernizing our military and supporting the brave patriots like himself who serve our nation. I will support his confirmation and look forward to I supported his confirmation and look forward to working with him to rebuild our military and advance President Trump's peace through strength agenda. This is the second time in history that a vice president has cast a tie-breaking vote for a cabinet confirmation. The last time was in 2017 when Vice President Mike Pence cast a vote to confirm Betsy DeVos for Education Secretary. That was in the first Trump administration. With that, Hegseth was sworn into his office Saturday morning by Vance. He has now taken over that role and is apparently already at work, at least according to a couple posts on his X account in regards to him leading the U.S. Department of Defense, expecting some more cabinet confirmation hearings and some additional votes over the next couple of weeks. We'll keep a very close eye on those, and as there is a North Carolina tie and connection, we will pass it along to you right here on the Carolina Journal News Hour and keep you up to date over on our website, carolinajournal.com, where it's now 5:08, News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. A busy day in North Carolina on Friday as President Donald Trump, just a couple of days into his administration, traveled to portions of western North Carolina that were so heavily damaged from Hurricane Helene back in September of last year. To recap and get us some more information on what exactly went on in Asheville on Friday, Brianna Kramer, CarolinaJournal.com, joins us this morning on the News Hour. Brianna, there was a large group of elected individuals in Asheville on Friday. What did you learn in watching and covering that?
Yes, that's right, Nick. President Donald Trump visited Asheville, North Carolina last Friday. That's where he called for the possible elimination of FEMA. He criticized the federal agency for its slow response to the recovery efforts here in North Carolina. He proposed some different changes in the future directed at FEMA and national response to federal disasters. But in attendance were many of North Carolina's state leaders. We had Governor Josh Stein, he was there, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, and then several other congressional members as well, Virginia Foxx, Chuck Edwards, and Tim Moore, who represent us up in the House of Representatives in D.C. They were all there to meet with Trump and discuss the recovery efforts. And then we had state leaders there as well. We had on the House side, Destin Hall, and then we had Brendan Jones as well, and then several different state senators. And then we also had Michael Whatley, who's the chair of the Republican Party. So large presence from many different local, state, and national leaders all coming together in the mountains in North Carolina to really key in, dial in on the recovery efforts now that the Trump administration has taken over the White House.
You know, Brianna, we've talked about this over the last couple of months in various updates that you've had for us in regards to Hurricane Helene and the continued recovery out there. There's been a large feeling from folks out west that they've essentially been and were forgotten by the previous administration. Trump talked about during the campaign that, you know, he was not going to forget Western North Carolina. And I guess it's accurate to say this morning that he is not. He came in guns a-blazing into the Asheville Regional Airport on Friday with that large group with him and really dug down into the substantive issues.
Yeah, that's right. He was direct and to the point. He said that they're extremely disappointed in FEMA. He called FEMA a disaster. And he said that it's not Governor Josh Stein's fault, of course, because he just took office, but he's ready to get to work with Josh Stein and other state leaders to really help the people of Western North Carolina. So it was a campaign promise. It is something that he talked about a lot in the months leading up to the election. And it's something that he is now taking action on. And so we're seeing it play out. And we know that it was more than just talk now. He's here, his first week in office, back in the White House, and he's ready to help lead in this recovery effort.
I want to hone in specifically on Michael Whatley's importance here. Wasn't necessarily expecting the RNC chairman alongside Trump, but we saw some pictures before the plane landed in Asheville that he was on board. And Trump continually went to him and seemed to indicate that he was going to be leading some sort of team or task force going forward to make sure that some of these relief efforts continue. For folks that might be familiar with that name, Michael Whatley, formerly the head of the North Carolina Republican Party, now leading up at the RNC. What did you make of Michael Whatley's kind of importance in all of these conversations on Friday?
Yeah, I did think that was very interesting as well, that he was pointing out Michael Whatley. Michael Whatley, he praised him for all he's done for the Trump campaign in the lead up to the election. Michael Whatley played a pivotal role in helping get Trump reelected into office. And so he helped last year with that. And so it's interesting that Trump is really leaning into him now in 2025 to help lead his state of North Carolina in the recovery efforts. Now that, you know, they're moving on from the campaign side of things, now it's time to put the policy into action. And Michael Whatley is obviously a pick for leading the effort because he's so familiar with North Carolina. And obviously he's, you know, been a lot of help to Trump. And so Trump is obviously going to keep him close by and going to keep him in the loop on all the recovery here in Western North Carolina. So it was interesting that he wanted to point out and praise Michael Whatley for all he's done. I also thought it was interesting. He wanted to recognize Franklin Graham, who was there as well, and he gave them praise as well for all the work that he's been doing through Samaritan's Purse to help the people out as well.
Well, and we really can't underscore the work that Samaritan's Purse did. I mean, Brianna, literally hours after the storm devastated portions of the state, when there was no state, no federal government or local governments there to help, it was private charity organizations like Franklin Graham's Samaritan's Purse that were the first on the ground and provided relief and have continued to do so for months now.
Absolutely. We've seen that firsthand. They've been sharing their work online, and it's been amazing to follow along and see how much work Samaritan's Purse has been doing out in the mountains to truly be on the ground and helping the people through it all. And we can just see the organization that this team has and all these volunteers and people coming together. That has been a true inspiration. And it's been amazing to see these people get to work without government involvement as well on their own, come together and help a community that's suffering.
We'll continue the conversation with Brianna Kramer from Carolina Journal coming up after this. You're listening to the Carolina Journal News Hour. It's now 5:14, News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. A look at traffic on your Monday morning with Boomer Von Cannon.
Hey, thank you. Huh?
It's 5:20. Welcome back to the Carolina Journal News Hour. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. I'm Nick Craig. Good Monday morning to you. Well, National School Choice Week officially kicked off yesterday across the state of North Carolina. A variety of events are planned across the Tar Heel State to celebrate education access. Legislators, students, families, and educators are taking part in a series of school tours and initiatives, read-alouds to spotlight the diverse education opportunities and options available to families in the state. Today and tomorrow, state leaders will visit 3 schools: the Rise Charter School in Raleigh, the Gaston Christian School in Gastonia, and the Grace Community School in Fayetteville. That's according to a press release from the school choice advocacy group Parents for Educational Freedom in North Carolina. Each event includes guided tours and opportunities for legislators to connect with students that are enrolled in the school of their choice. Mike Long, who is the president of Parents for Education Freedom in North Carolina, said, quote, "National School Choice Week is an annual reminder of all of the excellent education choices offered in North Carolina and across our nation. More students than ever before are celebrating this year, and we are thrilled that members of our state legislature are eager to meet with students and families who are directly impacted by these programs, whether it's traditional public charter, private, or homeschool. PEFNC is committed to empowering parents to find the best fit for their child's education." Representative Aaron Perret out of Wake County will participate in the event at the Rise Charter School in Raleigh that's taking place today. That's the same day that Senator Brad Overcash from Gaston County will join activities at the Christian school there, and Senator Val Applewood, a Democrat out of Cumberland County, will visit Grace Community School on Tuesday. School choice has been gaining momentum in North Carolina over the last couple of years, with the state now offering a wide range of educational opportunities. Approximately 1.3 million students are enrolled in traditional public schools. Nearly 140,000 of those are attending public charter schools, with over 130,000 students in private schools. More than 157,000 young folks, are educated through homeschooling across our state. Programs like the Opportunity Scholarship Program and Education Savings Accounts, ESAs, have played a major role in making private education and other non-traditional schooling options more accessible to families regardless of their income or location. Mike Long said, quote, "This week is about celebrating the choices and opportunities so many families now have. Education is not a one-size-fits-all, and we are committed to supporting parents as they choose what's best for their children, not just this week, but all year long. We will continue to track National School Choice Week and its implications here across North Carolina. We'll have coverage all this week over on our website, carolinajournal.com, and right here on the Carolina Journal News Hour, where it's now 5:24, News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. We are continuing our discussion this morning with Brianna Kramer from carolinajournal.com about what was a busy day Friday in North Carolina, with the 47th president in Donald Trump making his way to Asheville to tour Hurricane Helene damage. Brianna, in your article over at carolinajournal.com this morning, we are hearing some very heavy criticisms of FEMA from Trump, seemingly indicating, a direct quote from him, that either FEMA needs to be heavily restructured or maybe even completely removed from the equation. Can you dig us into some details on that?
Yes, that's right. Trump revealed plans to sign an executive order aimed at revamping FEMA. So that's going to potentially shift how disaster recovery is handled across the U.S. He pitched an idea that the states should take a more direct role in disaster recovery efforts, which could potentially bypass FEMA's slow and what he called bureaucratic response. And so he said he'll be signing some sort of executive order. We don't know exactly when at this point, but he said FEMA is not good. He said, I think when you have a problem like this, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican governor, you want to use your state to fix it and not waste time calling FEMA. And then FEMA gets here and they don't know the area. They've never been to the area, and they want to give you rules that you've never heard about. And so I think it just emphasizes the struggle that has played out here in North Carolina with FEMA, the struggles for months on end in coordinating and getting federal government aid. It's been a slow bureaucratic process. And I think Trump really wants to key in on that and fix that problem, not just for North Carolina's future, but every kind of disaster that could come our way or to any state in the future. We need it to, come with ease, and we need organization, and that's just not been the case here. And so it sounds like we could see a lot of changes, revamping, or maybe even getting rid of FEMA in the future, so the states have more control over what they do with federal aid.
Brandon, it's a pretty common talking point from individuals on the conservative or Republican side of the aisle to talk about getting the federal government or state governments out of the way. However, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up some of the issues that North Carolina has had with state-run relief programs in the past. Our listeners are familiar with the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency, NCORE, which is running a $300+ million budget deficit, and there's still more than 1,000 individuals without homes from hurricanes that affected this state back in 2016 and 2018. So maybe while the idea of state-run relief sounds good, North Carolina's got a very checkered past with that under the previous Roy Cooper administration.
That's right, and that is something to consider and definitely remember, is that North Carolina has struggled with that in the past with our own state leadership. We've struggled to get the correct response in place at the state level. But I think you look to other states as well, whether that's South Carolina or Florida or any other state, and you see that they have a more organized approach. And so I think North Carolina is currently learning and taking lessons from, the past, maybe past failures or other states as well, to gain a new perspective on what we can do moving forward for Hurricane Helene response and for any future emergencies. But I think you do bring up a good point that without the federal government getting involved, if you don't have a organized state government that's ready to respond, that could spell trouble as well. But I think that also at the same time will allow the states to have more of a say and just get rid of, like Trump had said, bureaucratic red tape that is really unnecessary and just makes it such a painful, long process. And that could really help ease the process so that leadership at the state level can hopefully help and make it easier for the residents that are going through some sort of struggle.
Incoming Governor Josh Stein, we saw him with Trump at the airport on Friday. He has essentially sidelined NCORE for relief efforts in the western half of the state. He's created a new group called the Governor's Recovery Office for Western North Carolina, or GROW-NC. Brandon, you follow the inner workings of government very closely here across North Carolina. This hurricane relief for Josh Stein is a major issue that he's going to face, and it was something that he had to deal with even before he was successful in his election win back in November.
Yeah, that's right. And he has already done several things to address Hurricane Helene response. As soon as he got into office earlier in January, he signed several executive orders, to establish these new agencies to help with Helene recovery, like NC GROW. And he also created some other organizations to help further the recovery response. And then within their General Assembly as well, there is the House Select Committee on Helene recovery. So we have several different groups formed within the state government that are going to be tackling this. And we've seen Josh Stein is ready to step up. And we also have seen Trump express his support in helping with the recovery and also coordinating and cooperating with Josh Stein. So hopefully we can, see some progress. Of course, they're on two different sides of the political aisle, but that shouldn't matter when it comes to helping these people get back on their feet. And, because of the past failures, like we already touched on, hopefully these different state leaders within the government will be able to come together and have a little bit more coordination and organization in their plans that they'll lay out in the coming weeks and months.
Brianna, it's a great update this morning. Where can folks go and read continuing coverage of Trump's visit?
Sure. Go to carolinajournal.com and you can read the latest there.
Brianna Kramer joins us on the Carolina Journal News Hour. Where it's now 5:30, News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. It's time to get another look at traffic on this Monday morning. We'll get the update with Boomer Von Cannon.
Hey, thank you.
It's 5:36. Welcome back to the Carolina Journal News Hour on Newstalk 1110 99.3 WBT. We're also streaming live this morning on our Carolina Journal YouTube channel. Encourage you to check out the Carolina Journal News Hour podcast. It's available wherever you get your shows, wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for the Carolina Journal News Hour, tap that subscribe or follow button, and you'll get a new show delivered to your smartphone or tablet each and every weekday morning. It's the Carolina Journal News Hour podcast. Download and subscribe now. Freshman Congressman Mark Harris, who serves the 8th Congressional District here in North Carolina, has been appointed to sit on the U.S. House of Representatives Agriculture Committee in the 119th Congress. Harris was elected to represent the 8th Congressional District after running after former Republican Congressman Dan Bishop stepped away from that position to run for Attorney General in the 2024 election. The chairman of the Agriculture Committee in Glenn Thompson from Pennsylvania said, quote, "I'm pleased to have Mark Harris from North Carolina's 8th District. Mark's a family man, which bodes well for his district. Did you know that nearly 95% of the farms in Mark's district are family-run farms? These farms produce a wide range of goods from tobacco to eggs and everything in between. Mark, I'm excited to have you on this committee." Harris will also serve on the subcommittee on general farm commodities, risk management and credit, and the subcommittee on nutrition and foreign agriculture, as well as the subcommittee on livestock, dairy, and poultry. A quote from Harris, which he gave us over here at carolinajournal.com. He says, quote, "Our nation runs on agriculture, and nowhere is that more true than North Carolina's 8th Congressional District. Along with other North Carolinians, our farmers have suffered for years under burdensome federal regulations. It's time to cut the red tape. Congress must be fiscally responsible in its efforts to support the agricultural industry by passing a 5-year farm bill authorizing a meaningful SNAP reform alongside other priorities. I look forward to working alongside Chairman Thompson and the committee to enact President Trump's agenda to help American farmers." And North Carolina, well, our largest business is agriculture, and we have many other representatives on that committee, including U.S. Representative David Rouzer, Don Davis, and Alma Adams, all of them serving on that as well. Rouzer has been appointed vice chair of the subcommittee on farm commodities, risk management, and credit. Davis will also sit as a member on that committee. In addition, Rouzer will serve on the subcommittee on forestry and horticulture, as well as the subcommittee on commodity markets, digital assets, and rural development. According to Thompson, in a statement, he says, "Today, the House Agriculture Committee officially organized for the 119th Congress and is now ready to tackle the many challenges facing American farmers, ranchers, and rural communities. From market volatility to regulatory burdens, our shared priorities include ensuring a strong and prosperous future for the American agriculture industry and the communities that they feed. Together, we look forward to bringing about meaningful policy, including a 5-year farm bill." You can read more on this story by visiting our website this morning, carolinajournal.com. In some other federal news that we are tracking this morning, late Friday evening, North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis was the key vote to leading to the confirmation of Pete Hegseth as the U.S. Secretary of Defense. Tillis voting in favor of Hegseth, giving Vice President J.D. Vance the opportunity to cast an 11th hour tie-breaking vote in favor of confirming him. 3 Republican senators, including Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, all voting no on Hegseth, making it 49-50. That set up Tillis to vote on the tie or essentially tank the confirmation. Earlier in the week, we had learned that Tillis had met with Hegseth for 2 hours before ultimately deciding to back him. On X, Hegseth shared a detailed letter that he sent to Tillis denying any sort of allegations that were levied and brought up. Those, of course, came out back 2 weeks ago ahead of President Trump's inauguration of claims that Hegseth was an abuser of alcohol, had issues in some of his previous marriage. He has denied those claims. His ex-wife even denies some of those claims. However, those allegations did sharply divide the Senate in regards to the Hegseth vote. Hegseth told senators that he wants to restore a, quote, warrior culture and a meritocracy to the armed forces. He has also been very critical of diversity, equity, and inclusion policies in the military and said during his confirmation hearing 2 weeks ago that any service member in combat should have to meet the same readiness standards regardless of their gender. Tillis posted this on his X account. Quote, from the beginning, I have been clear about my position. If President Trump's nominees were reported favorably out of their relative committees, I would support their confirmation on the Senate floor, absent new material information about their qualifications. He went on to say Pete has a unique perspective as a veteran of the wars of Iraq and Afghanistan and is unquestionably passionate about modernizing our military and supporting these brave patriots like himself who served our nation. I will support his confirmation and look forward to working with him to rebuild our military and advance President Trump's peace through strength agenda. This is the second time in history that a vice president has cast a tie-breaking vote for a cabinet confirmation. The last time was in 2017 when Mike Pence, who was the VP at the time, cast a vote to confirm Betsy DeVos for education secretary. That, of course, was in the first Trump administration. Hegseth was sworn in on Saturday morning by Vice President J.D. Vance. He now takes over that post, and according to his X account, Hegseth posted a picture yesterday in a memo that he has sent out to individuals within the Defense Department saying, no DEI, no exceptions, name changes, or delays. Those who do not comply will no longer work here. Signed, Secretary of Defense 29. He is the 29th Secretary of Defense here in the United States. So that's something we'll continue to track here, right here on the Carolina Journal News Hour and over on our website, carolinajournal.com. It's now 5:44, News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. It's time to get another look at traffic this morning with Boomer Von Cannon.
Hey, thanks.
It's 5:49. Welcome back to the Carolina Journal News Hour. Good Monday morning to you. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. A lot of coverage of North Carolina over the weekend, as we've talked about this morning. President Donald Trump was in the state on Friday. He made his way over to Asheville to meet with local elected officials and to check out the recovery and cleanup efforts. He visited areas like Swannanoa, even meeting with Governor Josh Stein. However, as of yesterday, Trump has now put the Federal Emergency Management Agency under review. He signed an executive order yesterday which aimed at, quote, drastically improving the agency's efficiencies, priorities, and competence. Trump's executive order establishes the FEMA Review Council, which will be composed of no more than 20 members and co-chaired by the Secretaries of Homeland Security and Defense. That, of course, will be Hegseth. The council is being formed after FEMA's response to Hurricane Helene and other recent disasters showed the need for improvements, as well as effectiveness, priorities, and competence, including evaluating whether FEMA's bureaucracy in disaster response hinders its ability to respond successfully. Trump hinted that something like this could be coming forward when he was in North Carolina on Friday. He had this to say when he was sitting down at the Asheville Municipal Airport with officials from Congress as well as officials from the state. This is Trump's kind of overview of FEMA as he sees it right now from Friday morning.
I'll also be signing an executive order to begin the process of fundamentally reforming and overhauling FEMA, or maybe getting rid of FEMA. I think, frankly, FEMA is not good. I think when you have a problem like this, I think you want to go and, whether it's a Democrat or Republican governor, you want to use your state to fix it and not waste time calling FEMA. And then FEMA gets here and they don't know the area. They've never been to the area, and they want to give you rules that you've never heard about. They want to bring people that aren't as good as the people you already have. And FEMA's turned out to be a disaster. And you could go back a long way. You could go back to Louisiana. You could go back to some of the things that took place in Texas. It turns out to be the state that ends up doing the work. It just complicates it. I think we're going to recommend that FEMA go away, and we pay directly. We pay a percentage to the state. But the state should fix this. If the state did this from the beginning, it would have been a lot better situation. I think you guys agree with that, right? So I just want to say that Asheville, I know it well. It's a great place, and we're going to have it be a great place again. That was the one that was most severely affected. But North Carolina is going to come back bigger, better, stronger than ever before. And you're going to be very thankful. And you've already seen, I know that it really began 4 days ago, but you've already seen more action than you have in the last 3 months.
That's President Trump at the Asheville Regional Airport in Fletcher on Friday morning. Before that took place, J.D. Vance was on Face the Nation yesterday morning and was asked about disaster relief. This is what the vice president had to say in regards to disasters and the interface with the federal government.
And this is, I think, one of the fundamental premises of President Trump's leadership. The American people should expect more of their government. When there's a terrible disaster, they should expect food, medicine, and water to get to the people who need it. When there's a terrible fire in California, the fire hydrants ought to actually turn on. I am sick of the American people having such low expectations for their government. They should demand more of us because this is the greatest country in the world, and that's what Donald Trump's leadership promises to bring back.
That's J.D. Vance on Face the Nation yesterday. With that, Trump also announced some executive orders that aim at cutting regulation. That is going to be helpful for road construction and rebuilding efforts in the western half of the state. He had this to say in the Swannanoa area Friday afternoon.
I'm pleased to announce that under our leadership, the federal government will be surging housing solutions to the state that go beyond mere temporary hotel stays that ended up being very short term. The government wouldn't do it any longer, which is ridiculous. We'll marshal all available resources to bring back potable water and make your water and infrastructure dramatically more reliable very quickly. Today, I'll also be signing an executive order slashing all red tape and bureaucratic barriers and permits to ensure the rapid reconstruction of the roads here in western North Carolina. We're going to go through a permitting process that's called no permitting, just get it done. That's the way they built them many years ago, I guarantee you that, right?
That's the president in Swannanoa Friday talking about and kind of wrapping up his comments in regards to the devastation and destruction that he saw out in western North Carolina. The executive order that Trump signed yesterday reads, quote, Despite obligating nearly $30 billion in disaster aid each of the past 3 years, FEMA has managed to leave vulnerable Americans without the resources or support they need when they need it most. There are serious concerns of political bias in FEMA, and indeed at least one former FEMA responder has stated that FEMA managers directed her to avoid homes of individuals supporting the campaign of Donald Trump for president. Trump also said that FEMA has lost its mission focus, diverting limited resources and staff to supporting missions outside its scope and authority. The president particularly highlighted that FEMA spent over $1 billion in regards to relocating illegal immigrants over the last couple of years. The order continued to read, Americans deserve an immediate, effective, and impartial response to and recovery from disasters. FEMA therefore requires a full-scale review by individuals highly experienced at effective disaster response and recovery, who shall recommend to the president improvements or structural changes to promote the nation's interests and establish national resiliency. Trump also announced, as we mentioned on Friday, that he does plan to overhaul FEMA as North Carolina and the western half of our state continues to recover from Helene, which affected the state more than 120 days ago. We have got a lot of coverage on Trump's visit to western North Carolina this morning. 2 articles over at CarolinaJournal.com. The first, Trump calls FEMA a disaster during NC visit, plans to reform or eliminate agency. And the other, President Donald Trump questions the future of FEMA. You can check out both of those articles and read the latest information over on our website, CarolinaJournal.com. Well, it is slated to be a busy week across North Carolina today. As I mentioned, National School Choice Week kicks off across the state today. However, the North Carolina General Assembly, they are back in session on Wednesday. And Wednesday afternoon, the House Select Committee on Helene Recovery will be meeting in the North Carolina General Assembly. Lawmakers from both political parties will be discussing Helene recovery. We'll be tracking that and all of the ongoings in this very busy legislative session coming up right here on the Carolina Journal News Hour. That's going to do it for a Monday edition. WBT News is next, followed by Good Morning BT. We're back tomorrow morning at 5 right here on News Talk 1110 and 99.3 WBT.